ago, I had been sent by New York Magazine to San Francisco for a series we were doing called The New Life Out There. We were a little bit Gotham-centered at New York Magazine at that time. You know, everything west of Fort Lee was out there. That was and so one of the things out there was the phenomenon that started in San Francisco of the topless restaurant, the topless bar, the topless waitress, and all of this. It just started in San Francisco. So I was there to write something about all of this because there was a big trial had begun to see whether or not it was legal for this kind of enterprise to be open publicly. And everyone was talking about the trial. So I was there. And who should come to town but Marshall McLuhen? And I had already started collecting information for a piece on Marshall McLuhen, which was to run eventually in New York Magazine. So I had this brilliant idea. I said, I'll take Marshall McLuhen to a topless restaurant. So sure enough, that's what I did. And I was in the company of two great San Francisco boulevardiers, Howard Gossage, who was a marvelous, raffish advertising man in San Francisco, and Herb Caen, the famous columnist, the most famous columnist in West Coast history, I guess. So we were heading for a place that was called the Off-Broadway. It was just off of Broadway, the street in San Francisco in the North Beach area. So here we are, the four supposedly, well, the three supposedly sophisticated boulevardiers and Marshall McLuhen. We weren't quite sure what Marshall's reaction would be. So we went into none of us had ever been to a topless restaurant. Herb Caen had been to topless. Carol Dota was the girl with the first show business silicone breasts. Had a striptease place nearby, but he had never been to the restaurant. So we walk into this restaurant. It's 12:30, the high noon time for lunch. The Off-Broadway was right in the Montgomery Streets section of San Francisco. That's where that's the Wall Street of San Francisco. And here we suddenly found ourselves in a large restaurant in Stygian darkness, except for spotlights which were picking out the waitresses. All of the customers were men, mostly from Montgomery Street, they were all seemed to be huddled together in these dark clothes, sort of like men in the back corner of a pornography store or something. And the lights only picked out the waitresses, who were clad, their complete clothing was what the French call a cache-sexe. We would probably call a G-string or a mini-thong, and spiked high heels. That was their entire, serving food. They were carrying these trays around, and always a spotlight. There must have been a dozen of them. A spotlight followed them wherever they went. So I looked to Caen, and then I looked at Gossage to try to see, how do you, to get a take on all of this. They were like I was. They were both speechless, absolutely speechless. We were all in a state of shock, except for one of us, Marshall McLuhen. Immediately, I heard Marshall say, "Well, this is very interesting. It's very interesting." And so I said, "What's interesting, Marshall?" He said, "They're wearing us." And I said, "What do you mean they're wearing us?" "They're putting us on." And I thought that was the greatest sort of Joycean pun that I'd heard in a long time. They're putting us on. And then he went, we are their towel, or we're their cloak, and we are completely at the service of these objects who are walking around amongst us. So we're seated, and the waitresses, it was a little. We were all still in a state of shock because the waitresses would lean over your shoulder with these pendulous breasts and give you your salad or your soup or whatever it might be. And at this point I heard Marshall McLuhen say, these dimly lit restaurants are not gustatory experiences. It's not the sense of taste that is being appealed to. He said, they're tactile. They're tactile. And I looked to see if he was smiling, but he wasn't. Not even the glimmer of a